Hey, it's Big T. Welcome to lesson 10 of how to tie flies. Today we are working with a zonker strip. Basically, it's a piece of rabbit hide that's been cut into strips. Really good for streamers. Today's fly is going to be kind of a cross between a slump buster and a bunny leech. This is a great fly that will be imitating sculpins, small bait fish, etc. So it's another one that's good to have in the fly box, kind of to complement your woolly boogers and your other small streamers. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to the vise and get tying. Okay, let's get started. We are going to, in the vise, we've got a 3X nymph hook, and this is actually in the vise we've got a size 6 shown. It's a 3.8 millimeter tungsten countersunk bead. We're going to be using some 1/8 inch zonker strips in sculpin olive, as well as some Sinya's laser dub, and that really could be the extent of our material list. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use a little bit of this Larvalace Mohair Plus in a brown olive for the body of the fly. You could use that Sinya's laser dub if you'd like. And then a red thread. This is a 140 denier. I like a little heavier thread at times, especially working with things like zonker strips that I want to kind of cinch down real hard. Now, on this body right here behind the bead, you could use lead wraps for sure if you wanted to either make it a little bulkier or sink faster. Now, one thing that I'll do, if I just want bulk, I'll use a lead-free wire. It weighs a lot less. So we've got that situated. We've got our thread base down. And we're going to tie in our zonker strip. And I've got, probably a 3-inch piece here. If you notice, the hair naturally is going to want to move in one direction. In this case, if I look at that, that's going to be, this one's not nearly as pronounced as some other ones. It's going to be backwards here. So we're moving from up to behind the, maybe wrong there. Most of them are very pronounced. I've got to pick the one that obviously doesn't have much of a difference one way or the other. So we're moving backwards this way. And what I want is I want that tail to be about the length of the hook shank. So I want to stroke this stuff. And one thing that you can do is wet your fingers, and you'll be able to work with it a little bit better at times in areas. So if I want it the length of the hook shank, I'm going to tie that in about right here. And so what I want to do is just part the hair there. And again, if I want to wet that down, I can. And I can move half of it to the front and half to the back. I'm going to hold this down, secure it well in the center of the hook shank, and go ahead and make several wraps over top to get that zonker strip tied in nicely. I'm also going to take one underneath, and what that'll do is just keep that thing from sliding or moving. Now we're going to take our thread, advance it in front of the zonker strip and lay it back and create our body. Again, I'm going to use this Larvalace Mohair Plus. It gives it a nice, you can brush it out and it gives it a nice full body. I'm going to be pretty generous with the amount that I put on. So I'm going to create a little bit of a thicker dubbing loop than I normally would, especially where I'd be creating a nymph, dubbing the body of a bug. And I want it on there good, but I don't mind if it's a little loosey-goosey, because again, we're going to try and brush that out and create a little more fullness. And I'll go ahead and wrap that up to the top, but I do want to leave a little bit of a cushion back there behind the bead. I want that bead to be able to twist easily because we're going to be adding in some material behind that bead. At this point in time, feel free to go ahead and brush this out because we will kind of be covering the body a little bit moving forward, and it'll be harder to do after the fact. Alright, we're going to take our zonker strip and come over top. And when we do that, we want to find out the area right behind the bead where we're going to tie in, and I'm going to manipulate the hair, half of it back, half of it forward to part it there, and come over top with a pinch wrap and tie that in well there. If I need to manipulate or move that around to make sure it's centered, you can do that. One thing you need to feel free to do is make your materials do what you want. Be hands-on with those materials. Now we're going to take the Senya's laser dub, and I'm going to grab a nice little pinch of that. And what I'm going to do at first is I'm going to take it and I'm going to separate it and then lay it back on top of itself. I'm going to pull it apart, and I'm going to do this a few times, and it gives me a pretty even amount on each end to work with. I'm going to lay this on top, half in front and half behind, and I'm actually going to spread it around the hook. I want to come over loose with my wrap and then cinch it down. And ideally what that's going to do is spread this laser dub around where we can pull it backwards and have coverage all around the hook. So now I'm going to pull all of this backwards and make a couple of wraps around. And that's going to give this fly a little bit more body, a little bit more fullness. Make sure I get all that back. Once I've done that, I'm now going to actually use this rabbit strip, and I'm going to hackle it like you would a feather, making sure I pull all the hair in a rearward direction towards the back of the fly. And I'm going to make a single wrap with that before I come over top with a couple thread wraps to secure it and a couple in front. And then trim. We're going to pull all of this backwards and begin wrapping several thread wraps to make sure we get this secured well in place. And I'm going to wrap a few over that rabbit hide that ends up at the collar, just to cover that real well. So we've got a nice body, we've got several different color combinations underneath there that are going to pop through. And we've got several different materials to create different movement with this fly. Now I'm going to whip finish. And at this point I would add either some Zap-A-Gap to the top, or you can use a thin UV cure. This is Solares bone dry. It's a very thin brush on, and it's great for several things, one of which is making sure everything secure at the top with your thread when you finish a fly. So that's it. That's how to work with some zonker strips. This is a great addition to the box to complement some of the other streamers. It does look and act differently than a woolly booger. It is a great sculpin imitation. Hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe to my channel and visit my store for these materials and more, including other videos, tutorials, and all of your fly fishing needs. BigTFlyFishing.com.